The Nightmares. Black smoke billowed from an old cracked cauldron. 3 figures draped in black hunched over it. The moon was overcast. The cave glowed in the dim light. The 3 witches mumbled an incantation into the green bubbly liquid. In the distance, faint drumming echoed throughout the forest. A wolf howled longingly. 3 nights, 3 days, we shall have the nightmares, repeated the first witch. 3 nights, 3 days, we shall have no cares, repeated the second witch. 3 nights, 3 days, we shall have the babes, repeated the third witch. A twig snapped at the opening of the cave. The witches stumbled forward and snatched at the air in front of them. The third witch shrieked. "We have a babe," they cackled out loud. With a swish of their wands, a tall young woman in a white lace dress shivered. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her hair was a dark long tangle. "Help me." Her voice was high and brittle. "Come here, dear," said the first witch. She pulled her in towards the fire. "You must be hungry," said the second witch. She poured a cup of deep green broth from the cauldron. "You must be cold," said the third witch. She filled a deep hole at the back of the cave with boiling water from a silver kettle hanging at the bottom of the cauldron. The young woman drank the broth and sighed. "Thank you," she smiled. "What's your name?" they asked in unison. "Livia. And you?" she asked innocently. "Never mind, you look filthy." They pulled her towards the back of the cave and slipped the dress off her. Livia sank into the hot water as her eyes drooped. "Are you married?" The first witch peered at her, envying her young body. "No, I was meant to marry a trader from the Far East, when I found myself running further and further away from my village." The second witch pulled a fine-toothed comb from her black dress and dunked her head into the water. "Never mind, you're here now." She untangled her hair before cutting a thick strand with a small dagger. The third witch grabbed a broom off the ground and brushed out a smooth marble slab in the middle of the cave. When she was done, she pulled the young woman out of the water and wrapped a black cloak around her. "Come here, dear. Lie down on the marble." Livia passed out as her head hit the cool marble. The first witch placed an empty cup at the bottom of the slab, and a large wooden bowl towards the left side of her body. She heated a long, sharp black knife over the fire. The second witch rubbed Livia's temples and called out, "Gods of the East, give up her dreams. Gods of the West, give up her demons. Gods of the North, give up her hopes. Gods of the South, give up her loves." She placed a paper-thin mouth to her temples and sucked up faint tendrils curling around her. With her wand, she blew her tendrils into glass baubles. Dark smoky shapes swirled into grotesque figures. The third witch held her shoulders down. The other 2 witches leaned over Livia as the first witch cut into her chest. She inserted her right hand into her body and pulled out her heart. The 3 witches cackled out loud. They huddled over the cauldron and threw in her heart. The first witch pulled out an oily cloth from her cloak and threw in the eye of a horse. The second witch poured the contents of the glass baubles into the cauldron. The third witch stirred the frothy, smoky liquid clockwise, then anti-clockwise. They held hands and called out, "We call you, O dark mares, show your true souls." Three enormous smoky figures, riding black horses, rose from the cauldron. They peered over the three witches. "You have woken the darkest of nights, the strongest of nights, the hungriest of nights." The first witch shook in her cloak. "O night mares, we have called upon you to breathe life into us." The second witch bit her lower lip. "O night mares, we have called upon you to grow our power." The third witch pulled back her hood. "O night mares, we have called upon you to restore our youth." The night mares moved closer. Their horses neighed and puffed thick, cloudy smoke. They spoke in hushed whispers. "Witches of Craven Oak, you have woken our 1,000-year sleep. Our purpose is to provide help in times of need. You have sacrificed a virgin, an innocent. We will use her as a sign of hope and youth." A loud crack deafened the witches. Livia's body disappeared. When the witches looked over to the night mares, they found her slumped over on one of their horses. They fell to their knees, weeping loudly. "Forgive us. The king gave us the right to summon you." "Stop!" The nightmares' voices hissed around them. "Witches of Craven Oak, at midnight you will perish. At dawn you will rise again. Your youth will return at the full moon and fade as dusk returns. Your curse will not harm anyone, but your magic will gain us infinite power." The nightmares faded as daylight cracked through the smoky night. The witches stood up and watched as their youth returned. The moon shone pale and white. They stepped out of the cave and shrieked once again. The ground beneath them fell away into a raging mass of blue, frothy sea. The three witches sang a haunting song that carried over the wind. Distant ships were pulled towards the beauty before them and crashed as it faded into the light. The end.